Hello and welcome to today's Partner Academy Live webcast. We are pleased to introduce the Time to Thrive series, Cloud for Enterprise, Hitting Your Sales Targets in 2012. Welcome to the sixth of our 12-part monthly webcast series to help you win in the new economy, compete to win, hit your sales targets, and thrive in our mobile world. Join us the second Wednesday of every month at 8 a.m. Pacific for a new session dedicated to improving your sales performance. You can also participate live on Twitter at #Time2Thrive5. Our presenter today is Varun Chhabra, who is a Senior Product Marketing Manager. And now, without any further delay, it is my pleasure to hand it over. Varun, you now have the floor.
Thanks, Debbie. Hi, everyone. Like Debbie said, my name is Varun Chhabra. I am a product manager at the Windows Server and Management Marketing team in Microsoft. And our team is specifically responsible for private cloud marketing. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. Josh did a great job in the previous presentation to outline the opportunity that we have in front of us, that partners have in front of you with regards to cloud and the various ways that you can take advantage of that. I have some slides there as well, but in the interest of time, I'm going to skip through some of the overview slides, and I'm going to focus instead on guidance on how you can use this opportunity and have a conversation with your customers. So we'll focus more on the sales side, and I'd also like to highlight a couple of tools for you that can help you drive those private cloud sales conversations. All right. Like I said, I'm going to run through some of the earlier slides. These are the thing to remember with this is there are some very, very common challenges that all of our customers, Microsoft customers and your customers are facing. Cloud is considered as one of those tools that will help solve some of these big issues. I'm sure a lot of you are struggling or helping customers deal with their server sprawl. They're having so many servers or having so many virtualized servers that they don't really understand, what's running where, and they're not sure how to manage things, and they're really, really scared to pull the plug on even a virtual machine, because they're not completely sure what's running on them. And then the greater challenge that we see when we talk to IT departments and our customers is that most IT budgets are spent on spending that's considered very inflexible and siloed data center equipment. So, maintaining data center equipment, keeping processes alive that are not necessarily flexible, and spending most of the money on maintenance versus trying to drive innovative activities. And then another key challenge that we're seeing is this emergence of these two stakeholders within an organization. So typically what we've done in the past is had a conversation with the IT business owner and who's concerned with providing services to the rest of the organization, and that used to be sort of the key stakeholder that we talk to. Now, while these are certainly still a key stakeholder, one of the things that's happening with consumerization of IT is that there is another really big audience within the company that Microsoft is finding we are going to have to talk to make an IT sale. It's not just enough to talk to an IT business owner. You also need to talk to the app developer or the service consumer, the person who's consuming the service that IT is providing. And you'll see they often have very, very different requirements and different goals, and their models of operation often conflict with each other. And then lastly, compliance and security, no surprise here, always a big concern. And all of IT processes and the way towards hardware over the last few years is driving a lot of infrastructure complexity that all of our customers and your customers are struggling with as well. The one thing I'll quickly say, wanted to establish what we believe cloud computing is. There's a lot of definitions for cloud computing out there, and to a certain extent, every vendor has their own cloud computing definition that's tweaked a little bit to serve their advantages. At Microsoft, like Josh mentioned, we have a very, very broad cloud solution, but essentially what we think cloud computing means is you need to have some sort of pooled resources. So either whether it's virtualization or combining your existing hardware, there is an element of self-service where people other than IT departments can actually request services on demand and have them spawned up. So there's certainly an element of automation in there as well. And then, not surprisingly, there needs to be an element of elasticity, and there needs to be some sort of metering so that depending on how much you use of IT services, you can get charged accordingly. And these are sort of the salient features that we think extend across all cloud computing, should extend across all cloud computing models. And not surprisingly, I think some of these things you've seen before. Drivers to cloud adoption, for cloud adoption are customers are looking for agility. IT departments want to be able to focus on what they do best. They want to enable the rest of the company to focus on what they do best and not have to worry about resources and managing that infrastructure complexity. And of course, the most important reason here is economics. That's always a point of discussion when you're talking to your customers about this as well. I don't think any of these will be big surprises. But then there are also some blockers to cloud adoption that we are seeing, and based on our conversations with our partners, they are seeing as well. Security is always a huge issue. Customers are concerned about their data living on somebody else's data center. They're concerned about their applications sharing the same infrastructure or same server as another application. So there's definitely a very real concern there. There are always issues with compliance, especially for some of the U.S. companies are always worried about compliance, like Sarbanes-Oxley. I know in the European Union there are very strict regulations as well. And companies that are trying to migrate their workloads or are interested in migrating their workloads to the cloud often find that compliance is a huge issue. And then lastly, compatibility is always a concern. You're running your applications on a specific operating system or you're using a specific application. Is the public cloud provider's infrastructure able to accommodate those? And those are definitely big blockers that often are stumbling blocks to cloud deals. The reason why we bring them up here is that it is our belief that the private cloud actually helps you address some of these blockers. And you'll see on this slide, a private cloud is basically cloud, so it has the same top-level benefits and the top-level features that I talked to you about before. But it's ultimately also distinguished from public cloud by giving customers more control, and then also allowing them to customize it to suit their needs. So you can, through control, you can address security. Through customization, you can address concerns around compliance and compatibility as well, and control helps a little bit with that as well. So the key thing to remember with private cloud is it's really relevant at this point of time, because until some of the big blockers that I mentioned before are addressed for the public cloud, you'll find that a lot of customers can realize some of the same benefits of cloud using a private cloud and not having to deal with some of the blockers of the public cloud. So the thing that's really interesting about the cloud is there is your sales opportunities as a partner extend across multiple dimensions. You really are looking at a potentially exponential increase in how you can monetize this opportunity. And Josh talked a lot about this, so I'm not going to spend too much time. But the important thing to remember here is, if you look on the left-hand side of the slide, you really have an opportunity to sell the complete stack. So there is one dimension which is about the stack, where you live on the stack. You can be a platform provider looking to get into virtualization and management. You could already be doing those and looking to get into identity and security and managing access. Or if you're doing all of those things and you're sort of a quote-unquote platform, IT platform provider, you can actually start looking to getting into development and taking some of the IP that you've been using and monetizing that on the cloud using sort of the development models. And then on top of that, there is a huge opportunity with regards to services in terms of maintaining and installing applications and workloads on top of these platforms. So Josh talked a lot about the specific opportunities there. The other dimension here is you have opportunities across different cloud models. There's if whether you're doing an on-premises private cloud, whether you're doing a hosted private cloud, or whether you're doing a public cloud, you have revenue opportunities across all three of these across the vertical stack. And then Josh mentioned a lot about how services, you can make money on services. There's different ways that you can make those services dollars. But then let's not forget, for those of you that do a lot of on-premises work, there's a lot of money in hardware as well. And you will continue to make money if you're a reseller on selling the software or maintaining the software. And all of these lead to sort of the economic benefits for the customers that we talked about before. And you keep seeing them again and again, which is lower management costs, so reducing your IT costs, optimizing your software costs, and then lowering your hardware costs, which are all economic based. And the key point here is, like Josh said before, Microsoft really wants to enable partners to be able to sell and make revenue across all dimensions. So across the stack, sort of the vertical stack, across on-premise data center, desktop, or on cloud, as well as in hybrid. And you'll see here, I'm not going to go through all of these in detail, there are a variety of products that can help you take advantage of, whether it's through services or through software maintenance, or if you're a reseller through software sales, to sort of take advantage of opportunities at every single dimension here. Now, let's take a step back and talk a little bit about where you should look for your customers with regards to public versus private. And this is based on some research that Microsoft did. And what we found is, I don't think any of these are going to be a big surprise for you. What we found is if you look at sort of this in two dimensions, one of which is the sensitivity to cloud economics. So how much are economics the major factor in driving something versus the other factors like security or agility. If economics are the single overriding factor, you will see that the top left quadrant, the customers there, sort of your SMB customers, academic customers, and some of the mid-sized customers tend to favor the public cloud in those situations. And maybe the concerns there are not as high around security, compliance, and all those things. So public cloud is a great option for them. Where we think the sweet spot for private cloud is really in your either in your government areas where compliance and security is a huge issue, or with enterprise companies as well, where again compliance is an issue, security is an issue, but most importantly, compatibility is an issue. Enterprise companies have often made humongous investments in IT, and it's not very straightforward for them to sort of migrate all of that on the public cloud. And certainly for government, there are these huge compliance and security concerns as well. So really the sweet spot for private cloud, we believe, is sort of in the top tier of your mid-size segment, and then in government as well as in enterprise companies is what we're finding. Now, give me a second. Let me just move to the next slide. Okay, so let's move into a little bit around how do you have those sales conversations around private cloud? I mean, how do you start those conversations, and what do you do to sort of move those conversations forward? And like I mentioned to you before, we're really seeing two different personas emerge in our conversations with customers for cloud. And one is on the right-hand side is your typical IT service provider. It's your IT department. It's your IT pro. It's the people that are managing and maintaining the IT resources. And their main concerns are, hey, how do I pool my resources to realize maximum efficiencies in terms of costs? What's my strategy for delegation and control? How do I make sure that there is no chaos in the IT infrastructure of my company? And how do I provide some sort of flexible and elastic environment for my customers, which is basically the rest of the company, to work through? And lastly, how do I realize the maximum cost efficiencies? And this personas are people like your CIOs, IT directors, IT pros. And on the left-hand side is a new stakeholder that we are finding is very, very important to address their concerns as well, in order to make a compelling sales conversation for your cloud discussions. And these are the service consumers within the company. These are your not only are these your application developers who often reside outside of IT, but then these are also the line of business application owners like marketing, sales management software tools, people who control these processes and are consuming the resource provides them to really run and drive their business to success. And their concerns, not surprisingly, are very, very different, and often they're at odds with what IT is trying to do. These people are looking for empowerment and agility. So, they don't want IT to define how to be restrictive about their control, what they can do and what they can't do with regards to their applications. They want a self-service experience. So, a common example that we see is if a customer wants to spin up a new website for a promotion for the holiday seasons, they don't want to have to go through a 1-month process to get a website spun up based on IT processes. They want to be able to do some sort of self-service and requisition these things very quickly. And then they also want visibility and control into their applications. So if they're using a sales application that is maintained by IT, they want to be able to see what's going on with that application. If it's down, what are the reasons that it's down? And how do you get over that? And so they want more control. And lastly, they want simplicity. So these are definitely things that we are finding. Often you find that these two different stakeholders have very, very different concerns. And we have found that people who are able, partners or sellers who are able to drive a service agreement between these two stakeholders really are being successful with the cloud discussion. So I'm not going to go through this in detail beyond this, but in the appendix of these slides, you will find some really pertinent questions that you can ask each of these stakeholders to really bring up those pain points and start a cloud conversation with these individual stakeholders. So please do look those up once you get them. Very quickly, I don't think any of this will be a surprise. It's very important to have a very structured sales conversation around cloud, and based on our conversations with our core partners, here's what we found. You really want to start with the organizational strategy. You know, what are the business priorities? What are the IT strategies, the IT initiatives? You know, the typical things that you ask people. But then you also want to talk to the service owners about what are the desired relationship with their infrastructure partners, with the IT partners. And then you go from there, from an organizational strategy, and then you start talking about workloads. And you really want to understand, you know, what kind of workloads are they looking to run, understand their requirements, and I'll go through a tool that we have created that will help you have that discussion in a very structured way. And then only after you've covered points 1 and 2, which are more crucial strategy perspectives, then you should talk about implementation options. You know, whether you want to do just a basic virtualized option, or whether you want to go for a full-blown on-premises private cloud, or if you want to do a hosted private cloud, or if you think the public cloud is the best option for customer. We find that it helps if you bring those implementation options up last, because they're not as important as the customer's organizational strategy and then the requirements that they're looking to drive for their business. You know, I'll quickly go through this. There are 4 pillars that Microsoft the private cloud is based on. And in the appendix, you will see deep dive slides for each of these pillars that explain a little bit more about what these are. But essentially, Microsoft, the key differentiation for Microsoft Private Cloud is that we are very big about application-centered infrastructure. We're very different from our competitors vis-a-vis, in other words, VMware, who's very infrastructure-focused. Our focus is more applications. We believe that you really drive value through providing application insight. And the infrastructure layer, the virtualization layer, is something that we believe has been commoditized. And then the second pillar is cross-platform from the metal up, which, as the name suggests, Microsoft believes in supporting multiple vendors across the stack, not just in the hardware stack, but in the management stack, in the hypervisor stack, and across different workloads. We believe in supporting different vendors, and as you will probably attest to, hybrid sort of vendor environments are the reality of today's IT infrastructures. So really there isn't any getting away from that, and Microsoft truly embraces that. The third pillar is around having products that provide you with a foundation for the future. So with System Center 2012 and Windows Server 8, which are products that are going to be released sometime shortly in this year, really we are trying to provide for products that will help customers and you establish a foundation for the future in terms of very elastic infrastructure that you can build a lot of workloads on top of. The last thing is, like Josh mentioned, Microsoft believes in providing the maximum amount of choice in terms of implementation options for customers. So whether it's going to public cloud, private cloud, or hybrid cloud, we want to be there for the customer no matter where they feel their sweet spot is. And like I said, the private cloud platform for Microsoft is essentially your Windows Server operating system, which includes Hyper-V, which is a hypervisor, and System Center 2012, which is our cloud management software. And on the right-hand side, you will see a set of components that are part of System Center 2012, each of which enables a different functionality. And I'm not going to go through this in detail, but let me just briefly, in the next 2 minutes, talk to you about 2 really useful tools that I would like everybody to go and check out after this conversation. Microsoft has recently released a tool called the Cloud Assessment Tool, which is essentially aimed at helping partners begin that conversation with customers about cloud. And it is a cloud model agnostic tool. It's not just for private cloud. It actually spans across all private, public, hybrid, as well as traditional data center as well. The idea here is that it asks questions to customers that the partner can walk them through, and based on the responses to the questions, it basically provides out an analysis in terms of what we think the best way forward in terms of implementation for the customer is. And this is really a great tool for you to have a very structured conversation around cloud with your customer. And that's the real reason why we have created this. And the data for all of this, the guidance for the tool has been made based on real conversations from partners. And this tool was actually made in conjunction with some of our infrastructure advisory partners that really basically came up with the logic for the tool and the recommendations that it comes up with. And there are two parts to this tool, and you can really decide as a partner which way you want to do this. The first one is a customer self-assessment. You can direct the customer to the www.cloudassessmenttool.com, where they fill a 10-minute preliminary assessment. They can submit the assessment, and then they get a preliminary discussion guide that you can walk them through. But what we also recommend for some of your top customers is for the partner to walk through a customer assessment, and then there is a different tool for that, which is a lot more detailed, and it has, depending on who you're talking to, if you're talking to a CIO, it has a CIO conversation guide and an assessment, but it also has application workload specific assessments around messaging, collaboration, unified communications, CRM, and line of business. So depending on who you're talking to in the company, there's a specific assessment for them that will really help you get started on these conversations. So I definitely recommend you to check out these tools. They are both have the same backend, but the customer self-assessment is a little bit quicker for customers, and the partner-led assessment is meant to be a more detailed, in-depth assessment for the partners to walk customers through. The links for both of these are on here. I encourage you to check these out. I'll go through this quickly. The second resource is the Partner Solution Plan, basically the PSP Activation Kit, which is a set of resources, a one-stop resource shop for you to get everything related to private cloud, whether it is partner incentives, partner programs, sales tools, and all of the like. You can go to partners-psp.com, and then we've created a generic username password for you. So please use the username GoCloud and the password GoCloud and access this tool. And what you'll see is when you go in there, you can go into the private cloud specific area, and you'll see here there will be an area where all the private cloud, all of Microsoft's private cloud partner tools, whether it's presentations, sales tools, even the cloud assessment tools on here, as well as you'll see at the bottom of this slide the specific programs and incentives that we have created for partners to help you sort of drive some more profitability. And you know, for example, if you're a reseller, you can take advantage of the ECI bounty. If you are a service provider or basically a service partner, a solutions partner, you can actually take advantage of our Microsoft Private Cloud Deployment Planning Services program, or you can even take advantage of Solution Incentives program, which Josh walked through in detail before as well. So in summary, I apologize I had to walk through this a little bit quickly, but what I will say is, in terms of recommended next steps, or to summarize what we talked about, we have a really nice webcast that helps you understand what the private cloud opportunity for you is in detail, even more detail than what we talked about today. So if you want to understand the private cloud opportunity for partners, or if you want somebody else in your company to understand it, there is a private cloud and partners webcast that goes through some of the things that we talked about today. Of course, welcome to refer them to the recording of this session as well. But then once your company is on board with the opportunity, I really recommend taking advantage of our readiness resources. And on bullet number 2, you will see there is a link for a private cloud partner readiness track, which essentially has online readiness resources by role type within the partner. So whether you're a salesperson, whether you're a tech pre-sales person, whether you're a business decision maker or a sales practice manager, or whether you are an implementer, or we have private cloud training for all of those roles. It's a really great resource. I encourage you to check it out. And then once your organization is ready, you really want to understand what are the various partner resources and incentives that Microsoft is making available. So that's where you go back to the PSP Activation Kit that I just mentioned. Once again, the username is GoCloud, the password is GoCloud. Please do check it out. Click on the private cloud section within the PSP Activation Kit. And then lastly, please go forward and use the cloud assessment tool. Check out the cloud assessment tool. The link is on here. Whether you choose to do a customer self-assessment or actually walk a customer through a partner-led assessment, I definitely encourage you to look at both the tools and understand how you can actually go and use them as driving some sales opportunities. So I really apologize for running over time. and having to run through this a little bit quickly. But I do also want to call out that in the appendix there are many more slides that go into detail in terms of what we discussed or had to go over a little bit earlier. So what I would recommend is please download the slides, go through the links that I've recommended on this slide, and please shoot us any questions if you have them, whether it's on Twitter or to the team here, and they will direct the questions to me. And let me just see if I can take one of the questions that
yeah, there's one in the queue.
That I'm just looking at, which Michael is asking, what experience and issues have you run into with medical clients? Are there many case studies that you can point to for both clinical and HC orgs? Michael, I personally am not familiar with the situation with the medical clients. However, I'm assuming you're asking this question around private cloud or federal. I can definitely get some information from our health services team, who will definitely have some solution there. So if you let me see, I don't have my email address on here. Let me see if I can type it on this slide. Give me a second. So let me just put my email address on here. I apologize for not having it.
If you send it to me, I can type it into Michael's answer.
Oh, okay, but can you see my what I just typed on the slide right now?
Yes.
Okay. So if you just look at, you can shoot me an email, varunc@microsoft.com. Whether it's Michael or anybody else, if you have questions that I wasn't able to address today or questions based on these materials, please do let me know. I'm more than happy to answer them as well. Or you can shoot questions to the organizing team as well, and they can direct them to me.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That was great. So, folks, let me see. I'm going to the end of the deck here. Excellent. So, folks, again, continue the discussion. Join us on our sales specialists group on LinkedIn after this webcast, where our cloud panel of experts will continue to answer your questions. So, folks, what you should see coming up shortly here now, this is a link to a short survey. We appreciate you taking a moment to fill this out. Prior to logging out, you'll need to enter your email address to access the survey questions, and then when you're done, please be sure to click on the Submit button to ensure that your feedback has been received. And with that, that does conclude today's Partner Academy Live webcast. All materials will be available internally on the Academy mobile platform, and partners, you are going to be able to access the recording on the Partner Learning Center within the next 24 to 48 hours. I'd like to send a big thank you to our presenters, Josh and Varun, and thank you, audience, for logging in and joining.